More scoopers have seemingly confirmed that Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are back, and some post-Flash speculation. Hey, welcome back to the Ping Pong Flix. My name is Chris Wong. Still feel like shit, still look like shit. So yeah, probably not going to show my face just for a little bit longer. But that's not what you're here for. For people who are skeptical that Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are back, I hear you, man. I can't believe it myself. Sometimes, every single day, I pinch myself to see if it's actually true. And you know what? I will still be pinching myself if and when that actually happens in the movie. I'm gonna be like, looking over to my wife, is like, can you pinch me, please? Slap me if you have to. I don't think this is actually happening. And I get it. But you know what? Another scooper and that person's camp has seemingly confirmed that Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck are indeed back. This is coming from Casey Walsh over at Geeks Worldwide. They are gonna bring Cavill and Affleck back full-time, and then have the Flash make it so none of them ever met, and Batfleck has to assemble the Justice League again, but this time has more options. Wait. Yeah, that's cool that Cavill and Affleck are back full-time, but what's this other stuff you're talking about? What do you mean the Flash is going to make it so none of them ever met? Batfleck has to assemble the Justice League again? Are we doing a rehash of the previous DC movies as if they've never happened? Like, this is him really much saying that Man of Steel happened, but Batman vs. Superman never happened, and Justice League never happened, and that after the Flash movie, the post-Flash movie, we're just gonna have them all together, and maybe besides the Flash, none of them know who the other person is. Now, for people who have sent me this and are wondering my take, I don't really have to tell you that this is not completely true. Because even Casey Walsh had to come out and say, to clarify, half of this is me speculating, so don't go making articles or posting on Reddit, you loons. And yet, honestly, he's not one of those happy guys, but it is interesting for him to talk about it when in the past he's always denied, and his camp has always denied, that Henry Cavill was going to be back and Ben Affleck was going to be back. And why I think the assembling the Justice League again is the part that he's speculating, it's because he himself says that because that's really the only way you can give Dan Lin a workable, clean slate. As you know, Dan Lin, who has not been officially been announced as the new DC film head, but we're all thinking he's probably going to be the DC film head. Dan Lin, the new guy who always wanted to make that Justice League movie first before giving each team member an individual film, may want to do that again. But it seems like Casey Walsh is speculating that in order for Dan Lin to get a clean Justice League so he can build his characters his own way, would mean that they would all forget who they are at the end of the Flash movie in order to make a clean slate, and he would be able to build out a new future. But I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and there are several cases I want to make. First of all, the Flash movie is not the last movie out of the DCEU. The last movie is actually Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. And we know that Ben Affleck is playing Bruce Wayne in that movie, so unless he's meeting Aquaman for the first time in Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom, I don't think that would make sense. Also, I believe they have a solid foundation right now. The fans and the general audience already know that Man of Steel happened, Batman v Superman happened, even the Justice League movie. Whether you take Zack Snyder's Justice League or the other Justice League movie, it all ended with them all together as team members. Not to mention, they're constantly playing Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Justice League on TBS. And so it's already out in the zeitgeist that these are the characters and these are how these characters met. And because the team does end up together at the end of Justice League, it's the perfect opportunity to just make a new Justice League movie with them all together without having to rehash how they all met and how they all formed. So I believe at the end of the Flash movie, it would just be the Flash ending up in the same universe, in the same timeline, and then they would have to work together once again to fight a new threat, whatever that may be. But perhaps another solidifying confirmation for me that Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill are back, especially full-time, is that this confirmation is now coming from Casey Walsh, DC Films Insider, and the other people over on that side of the camp. Now, when are we going to get news of anything new from DC? Well, unfortunately, it's not going to come out for a DC Fandome, because DC Fandome has been cancelled this year. Warner Bros. Discovery announced with the return of in-person events, Warner Bros. Discovery is excited to be able to engage with our fans live at numerous Comic-Cons around the world, and will not be scheduling DC Fandome for 2022. And honestly, I already knew this was going to happen. DC Fandome was a product of the previous regime, Warner Media, in response to the COVID pandemic, in response to San Diego Comic-Con canceling. They had to make this virtual event so that everybody in the world can join with that whole social distancing going on. But now with the new company, Warner Bros. Discovery, who is all about going to the movie theaters, all about in person, and is really pulling back on the whole HBO Max streaming thing, it just makes perfect sense that they won't do a DC Fandome. But that does mean that we could possibly hear about new movies, maybe even a slate, maybe even as early as like the New York Comic-Con experience that's coming out in October, or they're going to plan for giant big events by the time we get to the next San Diego Comic-Con. And honestly, seeing that Deadline is the trade that Warner Bros. Discovery is seemingly giving all the exclusives to, we'll probably hear more about what's going to happen with DC through Deadline. Alright, what do you think about the cancellation of DC Fandome, and do you think they're really going to rehash the previous DCEU movies in a soft reboot, or do you think they're just going to continue off with The Flash and Justice League as how it really should? Share your thoughts in the comments down below.